Today we're having the first lesson of the philosophy seminar. The philosophy which we're going to study is a practical philosophy, the purpose of which is to free us from suffering, to free us from negative feelings and negative mental states. Also to free us from limitation, free our minds from creating various types of limitation on our abilities, on our health, on our happiness, on our feelings of security. So our basic problem, man's basic problem, is his feeling of separateness. If we analyze why we feel the various negative feelings that we have, if we do a deep analysis, we will discover it is because we feel separate from other people, and thus feel lonely, and thus feel vulnerable. We feel separate from nature. We have become totally alienated from nature. We don't consider ourselves a part of nature anymore, and we have stopped being a part of nature. And we feel separate from God. So these are three basic aspects of our surroundings from which we feel separate: people, nature, and God. This sense of separation creates insecurity, mistrust, and fear in our minds. And these fears lead to the whole variety of emotions that we have. That is jealousy, anger, hurt, bitterness, rejection. All these emotions come from the basic emotion of fear. Come, Wendy, there's a chair here. Yeah, okay. So, we are not seeking knowledge here just for knowledge's sake. We are seeking knowledge which will free us from the basic causes of suffering, from the basic causes of unhappiness. We're also seeking, through this philosophy, to create a personal cosmology, a personal philosophy of life, so that each person can understand his place in the universe, his place in society, his place in nature. Because without understanding who I am or what I am, it's difficult for me to understand the purpose of my existence. And if I don't know why I exist, for what purpose I exist, then it's very difficult to make life choices. Because really, every life choice that I make should be made in the light of that criteria. Does this serve the purpose for which I exist, or does it not serve that purpose? Do I exist simply to be able to enjoy whatever pleasure or whatever sense of security I can on the physical level, and that the end of my life is the end of my existence? Or is there some higher purpose for my existence on the earth, which is beyond simply surviving or satisfying basic needs? This is a very important question for us to answer as individuals and as a society, because our value system creates our needs, and our needs control our lives. So we need what we give value to. So if I give value to money, I need money. If I give value to appearance, I need to attend to my appearance. If I give value to what other people think about me, then I spend all of my life trying to make other people think positively about me. If I give value to my character, to my spiritual development, then my energy goes towards that. So all of my life energy, my time, my money, my thoughts, my energy go to what I value. And my value system is based on what I believe I am and what I believe is the purpose of my life. So it's very important that every person creates their life philosophy. So I'm going to be presenting to you some concepts which I have found very suitable for myself. But you should not accept anything that I say to you if it doesn't seem logical, if it doesn't seem true to you. I mean, everything I say to you should doubt, and you should investigate and come up with your own conclusions, perhaps not in the time space of this seminar, but you should at least begin the process of asking yourselves, what am I doing here? What is my life for? And am I living my life in alignment with the reason for which I have been born? Now, the idea here is that the soul, upon incarnation, loses awareness of its true nature. That is, the idea is that, as all religions affirm, that we are immortal, that our existence does not end with the end of the body. All religions may disagree on many points, but on this point they agree. And most philosophies also. So, the problem is, I don't experience myself as a soul. I experience myself as a body. The idea that I am a soul is just an idea in my mind. It's not my experience as this room is my experience at this moment. And so, because I am not experiencing my true nature, I identify with what I can see, what I can feel. And what can I see and feel? I can see and feel my physical body, and I can see and feel my mind and my thoughts. So I identify with them, saying that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this personality. And then I begin to feel fear, because as a body I am vulnerable, both to illness and to pain and to death. And as a personality I am vulnerable to be hurt, to be demeaned, to be criticized, or even to die. Okay? So from the moment I identify with my body, and I identify with my personality, and consider them to be the totality of my existence, and that I have no existence beyond them, then I experience a very deep fear. That fear then causes me to try to create an illusion of security by having whatever I believe the body needs to have, or the personality needs to have, in order to be safe. So I need a spouse, I need friends, I need money, I need objects, I need pleasures, I need all of these things in order to be okay. So ignorance of my true nature creates identification with my temporary nature, and that identification with my temporary nature creates various attachments, addictions, and aversions. So I'm attached to having certain things, and I have an aversion to having other things. An aversion is just an attachment to the negative. That is, I have an aversion to having illness, to having an accident, to having the presence of certain people in my life. I have an aversion towards failure or towards weakness. It's the same thing as an attachment, but on the other side. From the moment that I become attached to certain people or situation or objects or positions, then a second fear is created. I get attached to these because I have an emptiness which I need to fulfill. And then once I become attached, then I live in continual fear of losing what I have. First of all, I have the fear of not being able to obtain it. Then when I obtain it, I have the fear of losing it. Because the nature of physical reality is that everything is temporary. Nothing that you see at this moment will be here in about 50 or 60 years. Nothing. Probably not even this building. These bodies won't be here in 50 or 60 years. These bodies will be in the earth. So nothing that you see at this moment is going to be here in 50 years. It's all temporary. It's just, you know, we have this very small concept of time, and we manage to create this illusion in our minds that, you know, we're going to be living here forever. So because subconsciously we know that we can lose our spouse, we can lose our loved ones, we can lose our money with one earthquake, with one fire, with one flood, with any kind of change, that society, everything that I have can disappear, I cannot really experience inner security as long as my sense of security is depending on things outside of myself. And so this is a very practical philosophy in which we want to be able to find an inner base of security, a security based on what we are rather than what we have or who we are with. A security based on our being, on our inner nature, rather than what we are attached to or have. Now, if we are, in fact, this immortal being, why don't we experience it? This is a very basic question. One answer is that there is an evolutionary process taking place, and that evolutionary process is simply at a stage in which we are not mentally capable yet of experiencing our true nature. Just as, for example, when we see a flower bud who has not become a flower, we don't say that the flower bud is wrong or that it has sinned. It simply has not come time yet for this flower bud to blossom into a flower. So this is a matter of evolution. It's a matter of timing. So one answer is that as aspects of creation, the time has simply not come where most people are able to be aware of this. Now, some people are aware. We have saints, we have spiritual masters, we have people who have experienced these realities and teach us these truths. Also, we have people who have experienced a temporary death and have come back into their physical bodies after having become separated from their physical bodies. You can find a number of books now and articles about this subject, and who, although their heart and brain had stopped and were clinically dead, were totally aware of everything going around them. Although the body was in great pain, or should have been in great pain, they were feeling bliss, and they experienced the reality of being totally separate from their physical body. So for these people, it's not a matter of faith, it's not a matter of believing anybody. For these people, this is a reality as clear as the reality that we are experiencing at this moment. Another aspect is the aspect of energy, that our energy level is not high enough yet, and it has not risen into the higher centers of consciousness in order for us to perceive reality through those higher centers of consciousness. We're still perceiving reality basically through the first three centers, which we discussed already, which is through our need for security, our need for pleasure, and our need for affirmation. Because our minds and our emotions are so locked up in this continual effort to manipulate our reality and control people around us so that they behave to us in a way that affirms our security, our self-worth, and gives us pleasure, that there's no energy left. It's like having an apartment building in which you've got all the faucets opened up on the first three floors and no water can get up to the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh floor, because it's just all being lost on the first three floors, you see. So it's also a matter of energy. It's also a matter of programming. You know, there's the story of the lioness who was hunting a flock of sheep. And she had with her her small baby lion. And in this chase, the lioness died. let's say she had a heart attack, okay? And the baby lion then stayed with the sheep and grew up with the sheep and was programmed to think and to feel like a sheep. And so he would be eating grass and going ba-ba and being afraid like a sheep. And one day, after a few years, this other lion started chasing this flock, and suddenly he sees, to his great surprise, this huge lion, which had now grown up, running from him and crying ba-ba, afraid. And so he caught the lion and said, "What are you doing? Why are you behaving like this?" And he says, "Well, you're a lion and I'm a sheep, and you're going to kill me." And he said, "But you're not a sheep. Come with me." And he took the lion to a lake, and he said, "Look into the water. Look at yourself, and look at me. What are you, a sheep or a lion?" And of course the lion realized his true nature and regained his strength and his power. So we are all spiritual lions, and various lions come and remind us of our true nature. Christ says, if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could move mountains. You could do anything you want. And one after the other, these beings come and they tell us, you are not bodies. You are spiritual beings. You have unlimited power. You are eternal. You cannot die. But we, having been brought up by sheep, by a society which has absolutely no faith in these spiritual truths, who is totally focused on ourselves as bodies and personalities, find it difficult to believe, and we continue living our lives programmed as sheep, programmed as beings who are denying the power, denying our immortality, denying all of that potential which is within us. Now, in discussing these philosophical truths, we come to the problem that the actual truth cannot be expressed. The actual ultimate truth is beyond time and space. And our mind and our words and our thinking processes are limited by the concepts of time and space. So there's no way that we can express with words what is the ultimate truth. So anything that we say is going to be an effort to just approach that. That is to, in some way, describe that truth, but everything that we say could be negated in some way, ultimately. Okay? So what I see is that these truths that we're going to be studying, these concepts which we are going to be studying, are like stepping stones, or they're like the rungs of a ladder in which we are stepping as we go up, leaving a lower perception of reality for a higher perception of reality. But even the higher perception is limited by my perception of time and space. Until I get to the highest rung of the ladder, in which I step onto the roof and I don't need the ladder anymore. So stepping onto the roof means letting go of all concepts, letting go of all beliefs, all perceptions. But in order to be able to do that, we need to arrive at a state of inner security and a higher perception of reality than the one that we are functioning from now. So it's important that you understand from the beginning that no truth that we can express with our words will ever describe the ultimate reality. One can experience the ultimate reality through meditation, through dance, through prayer, through a peak experience. One can experience, and what is that? The total loss of individuality. The total loss of any separateness from the universe. I think that all those of you that have read the Celestine Prophecy will remember the moment in which the hero experienced that on the mountain after a moment of danger. He almost got killed by the soldiers there. And history, especially the history of saints, but also the psychological studies of Abraham Maslow, have shown that there are a number of people who have what we call peak experiences, which in yoga is called samadhi, in Zen called nirvana. In Christianity we could call it the a kingdom of God, or the kingdom of heaven, in which one loses all sense of separateness, because the whole problem was created in Christian terms when Adam and Eve separated themselves from that oneness by eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That is, by getting into the world of duality, by accepting to go into that world of duality. I take this metaphorically. I don't think this could have been avoided. I don't think it was a mistake. I don't think it was a fall. I think it was simply a way to describe the way man's evolutionary process is taking place. When the human mind was created and the possibility of free will was developed, then man suddenly had the choice, a choice which he did, what the spirit did not have as an animal and plant. You see, animals, plants, minerals, all of the universe are in harmony with the laws of nature because they have no choice. They're unconsciously in harmony. The human being is the first aspect of creation which has choice to align himself or herself with the laws of nature, to live in harmony with the universe, or to focus on ourselves and to live in an ego-centered type of life in which we ignore the world around us and ignore the laws of nature. This, of course, has its own repercussions. Now there's another concept, and the concept that this illusion, this amnesia, which the soul experiences upon incarnation, is not by chance. That it's actually in the plan of creation, and it's not some sin, some original sin, but that it is simply the will of the Creator that this should take place, that mankind should lose awareness of their own nature, so that they are forced in that way to develop various abilities in the material world. Because if I was experiencing inner fulfillment, I would have no reason to develop my abilities to function in the physical world, to become capable of creating, producing, and being an effective instrument in the world. And that after this process takes place, then the human being becomes a useful agent for the divine. The question is whether at that point, having developed a strong body and personality, one is willing to let go of the personal will and to become an agent for a higher energy. So in the beginning, one is denied access to inner fulfillment so as to seek outer fulfillment. And this causes us to develop many qualities, mental, physical, and spiritual. But then one is asked to give up using those energies for one's own benefit and to use them for the good of the whole. We'll get into this in a later class. Okay, so before we continue with discussing this philosophy, I would like to explain to you why in Harmonic Izui we teach this class as a part of the third year of this seminar. First of all, we start with physical harmony because we believe that the body does affect the mind. And that even if I know the most wonderful and deepest spiritual truths, if my body is not in good shape, if my energy is low, then I'm going to have negative thoughts. This energy, these spiritual truths are not going to be able to function within me. Now a person who is very connected to those truths and has physical problems can maintain their positive nature. But most of us, when we are tired, when we are ill, when our body is not functioning properly, move into negative emotional states. And look, just 1 minute. Okay, the cassette players are okay? Okay, sorry for that break. So, we consider very important that a person who really wants to be able to incorporate these spiritual truths in his life, employ exercises, breathing techniques, a proper diet, relaxation techniques, so as to develop a high quality of energy so that these truths can be cultivated. It's like having a garden and watering the plants that you want to strengthen. Then we moved on into emotional harmony, because again, if I know many truths, if I still have these emotional mechanisms functioning within me, which I have not analyzed, every time someone gives me a stimulus, reacts to me in a way which stimulates those emotional mechanisms, regardless of what I know philosophically, I'm going to have those negative emotions. Okay? So it's not enough just to study philosophy. One needs to work on these emotional mechanisms through a technique of self-analysis. And then also we have learned to meditate, because meditation allows us to come in to a sense of our inner self from which these truths are coming. That is, people can discover these truths simply by meditating. And most of these truths are discovered by people who, through meditation, have come in contact with the truth. So that this is an experiential way of coming in contact with the truth. So this is a whole package. This is keeping our bodies and energy in shape, working with our emotional level through self-analysis and positive thinking, meditating daily, and now studying these truths in the way that we are. Now, there are three ways to gain knowledge. One way is to hear it, or to read it, to learn it from someone else. Okay? So anything that we read in a book, anything we hear on a cassette, anything we hear in a seminar or a lecture, is knowledge gained in this way. The second way to gain knowledge is through inference. That is to see something and to infer a third possibility. That is to draw conclusions, logical conclusions in our minds from what we observe. And the third way to gain knowledge is to experience it directly. So, for example, someone can say, the fire is hot. You can say that to a child, but that doesn't mean anything. He hasn't experienced it yet. Okay? One can infer that the fire is hot because we can see that there are waves coming from it, we can see light coming from it, but still, it might not be hot. Only when we put our hand in the fire can we be sure that it is hot. Someone may say that it's raining. Could be raining. Or we may hear a sound which sounds like rain, so we might infer that it's raining. But also, water could be falling off the balconies here. Or, if we go outside, we can determine whether it's actually raining, or water is falling off a balcony, or something else is happening. There's a sprinkler out there, whatever it may be, you see. So only through direct experience can we be sure. So we can hear that we are souls. We can hear that we are immortal. We can hear that if we have faith, we can create just about any reality that we'd like. We can infer these truths by observing nature, and observing that in nature nothing disappears. Everything is just transformed into something else. Nothing can disappear, neither energy nor matter, but energy can become matter, and matter can become energy. And everything in the physical world is just in a continuous state of recycling. So it's very unlikely that I can come to an end, since everything else is being recycled. But still, I can have doubt if I haven't experienced it. So the only real solution, the only way knowledge can be totally fill our beings is by experiencing that truth. Now the first two ways, that is learning, hearing, and inferring, open the mind to the possibility of experiencing. You see? So they allow the mind to open so that I can be open to the possibility of this reality, and then it's more easy to experience it. This does not mean, however, that there are not many cases of people who have had these kinds of experiences without having studied anything, and even people who have been very negative towards these kinds of concepts. Take, for example, Paul, St. Paul, who was totally against Christ, totally closed towards the idea that Christ had any contact with the divine until he was walking to Damascus and suddenly had the vision. He was totally negative, and so his mind was not open. So it also happens in cases where people's minds are not open to these. And it's not just that. It does help, however, to be able to believe these things in order to experience them. Now, what is the source of the information that we're going to be studying throughout this seminar, these 13 sessions? The main source is what's called the Vedas. The Vedas are very ancient books which can be found in India, and they're the sacred books of the Hindu religion, but we're not going to study anything which has to do with the Hindu religion. We're going to study what is a philosophy. Because in the Vedas, there are 4 parts. There is the part which has to do with how you should live your life, various rules of living, as are in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. There are various chants for various purposes and liturgies. And then there's one part at the end which is just spiritual truths, which has nothing to do with what religion you belong to or who you worship. It's just what is man, what is man's purpose in life, what happens after death, these kinds of things. We're going to study that part of the Vedas, and that part of the Veda is called the Upanishads. Upanishads. Now, except for the Upanishads, there are 4 other books which I would say from which we'll be working. One is the Bible. Quite often I will be quoting especially from the New Testament. Another book is the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very beautiful book, a very beautiful teaching. The Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad, it's a smaller part of the Mahabharata. I don't know if any of you saw Peter Brook's TV serial on the Mahabharata, but we'll discuss that. And the 4th book is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. That is it's a very small book. It's only 190 something phrases. It fits in about 20 pages. But when you get the book with commentary, the book can be up to 500 pages. Some of the commentaries are huge. It's only about 20 pages, the book actually, but when these people start commenting on it, there's so much truth behind each very small phrase. And we'll be looking at these. These are called the aphorisms of Patanjali. Now Patanjali, to get a time on this, Patanjali was from about 300 to 500 years before Christ. The Bhagavad Gita, I have no idea. The Indians are very bad on time. They say between 20,000 and 5,000 years ago. Somewhere in there, you know. The Upanishads are about the same. We're talking about, most of this teachings started out before the time of Christ. Okay. Now, what are the questions which we need to answer about our lives? The first question is, who or what am I? Now, if I say, anything that I say cannot describe the totality of my being. If I say that I'm a father or a mother or a child or a brother or a sister or a professional, or anything that I do will not describe the totality of what I am. So also I realize I cannot be my body, because I have watched my body grow since it was 3 or 4 years old. And if I say I am this body, and obviously this body is not the body I had when I was 5 years old. This body is not even the body I had 7 years ago, because all the cells have changed except for some of the nerve cells. The rest of the body is a totally different body. So who or what am I? The second question is, where have I come from? At some point I did not exist on the earth. Isn't that right? At some point, 20 years ago, I wasn't, maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, I was not on the earth. I did not exist here as I am now. Where was I? What was I doing? Where am I going? Now, where am I going has two questions. That is, where am I going in this life? And where am I going after this life? And fourth, how long will I be here? Okay. Now, in answer to this, I'd like to look at a very simple passage from Swami Vivekananda. He died at a very young age. I think he was about 33, 36 years old. But he made quite an impression in America when he went there. I don't remember the dates, but it was in the early part of this century. He went to a few congresses which were for the unity of religions, in which all religions came and were represented. And he spoke in a very simple way, a very clear way, which made many people become very enthusiastic. And now there are many centers all over the world based on his teachings and his teacher's teachings. His teacher was Ramakrishna. Now, what did he say, Swami Vivekananda? He said, man is in reality an immortal divine being. Answer to our first question, what am I? I am an immortal divine being. I never told you this when you were a kid. This is what Swami Vivekananda is telling us. You are an immortal divine being. The purpose of life is to reconnect to that divinity. So what is the purpose? Why am I here? To reconnect to my divinity. And you might be interested to know that the word religion comes from two Latin words, re and ligere, which means to reconnect. Ligere means to connect, and reconnect. So religion means to reconnect. It doesn't mean to connect, it means to reconnect. The word religion in English. Okay? So we see in the very word religion that we are being asked to reconnect with something that we were connected to. Okay? So that the purpose of life is to reconnect to that divinity. And then it goes on. By controlling inner and outer nature. So he gives us the way to do it. By controlling inner nature and by controlling outer nature. And he says, this can be done in 4 basic ways. And he mentions, by work, by worship, by control of the mind, and by philosophy. By work or service, by worship, by control of the mind or meditation, and by philosophy. By one, or all of these, or some combination. So, what does it say? We are immortal divine beings. The purpose of our lives is to reconnect to this divinity. We can do this by controlling our inner and outer nature, by work, by worship, by controlling the mind, and by philosophy. Then he says something very beautiful. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. All of these are secondary. They're fine. If they help you, fine. But the essence is reconnecting to that innate divinity which is within us. And you know, most Christians do not realize that the goal of Christianity is theosis, or the divinization of man. This truth has been lost throughout the years, and it's not taught at all in the churches or in the catechism, that man was born to become divine. In fact, when you say that, most Christians will think that you're saying a sacrilege. But this is heretic to say something like this. But there are an abundance of teachings in the Christian religion which show that man's purpose is to become divine. And how? By perfecting the spiritual virtues, by perfecting love, by perfecting humility, by perfecting peace, by perfecting truthfulness, sincerity, selflessness. That is, by perfecting these spiritual virtues, one can actually reconnect to his divinity. Now, Swami Vivekananda gives us 4 ways. He says, work. Now, this is the path which in yoga is called karma yoga. That is, the path of service, in which one seeks to serve humanity, to help those around, those who don't have to eat, they're ill, they're poor, they're orphans, they're old, they're lonely. That is, serving those around us. Now with 2 prerequisites here. Without seeking anything in return. That doesn't mean that we cannot receive something in return, but we're not seeking something in return. He says we do it because we want to do it. If we need to live, and someone can help us to live, fine, no problem. I mean, if we don't have our own resources. But the thing is, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it out of love. I'm doing it because I feel a sense of unity with the other person who is suffering, and I want to help. And secondly, without attachment to the result. You see, even when I want to do good actions, the attachment to the result causes my mind to get upset. And I lose my peace, and I lose my connection with the truth, you see. Because the result is not ours. The result belongs to the universe. What belongs to me is the effort. So what we need to do in life, it's a very difficult combination, and that is to give all our energy to things that we believe in without having the attachment in our minds to the result, which creates anxiety and a whole wide variety of other negative emotions. So some people are able to give all their energy but are definitely attached to the result. And other people are not attached to the result, but they don't give their energy. The difficulty is finding people that give their energy and are not always angry and not always upset and not always in anxiety and not feeling injustice that other people are not giving their energy. Because if I'm giving my energy because I love to give it, then it doesn't matter what the other people are doing. It doesn't matter if they're giving them enough. This is the path of karma yoga. All of these paths lead toward what we could call the universalization of the individual. That is, the individual loses the sense of separateness and connects with the whole in a certain way. In the first path, Karma Yoga, which Swami Vivekananda mentions, I connect with the whole through actions. Through my actions. I am connected because I am serving the whole. So on the physical level, I am becoming one with the whole through my service to other people. Now, this works as a means of purifying the ego, because often what will happen is that my personal needs will come in conflict with my need to serve. And so this is a very purifying process, because I'm constantly confronted with my ego and my fears and my need to satisfy my various desires, and I have this continual choice. Am I going to satisfy my need to sit here and watch television, or the need of this other old person who's sitting by themselves and has no one to talk to, or this orphan who has no one to give them love? So we're in this constant state of choice in our lives. It's important, however, that such a path is not done as a form of escape. Some people get into a path of service so as to escape their own problems. They don't take care of themselves, or they're in a state, they're doing it in order to feel self-worth. They don't feel any self-worth within themselves, and so they need to serve in order to feel the self-worth. Or they believe God will love them more if they do this. This is always still looking for a result. For God to love me, to be worthy. You understand what I mean? So we must be careful, because even this path can be a trap. All paths can be a trap. Meditation can be a trap. All of them can be forms of escape. But it's, if I sense that I am in my service, there's a certain amount of ego functioning, that doesn't mean that I should stop it. Because we learn to swim by swimming. Okay. So I continue serving, but I just observe the times my ego is getting in there, and I work on purifying my ego through the service. The second technique which Swami Vivekananda mentions to us is worship. Now, it's important to understand that in the Vedas and in yoga, one is totally free to worship any form and in any way that one's religion has guided. It's not a religion. It's a method. It's like a car. A car, a Christian can drive the same car as a Muslim, as a Jew, as a Hindu, as a Buddhist. So, what we're describing here is a way of moving forward. And anyone can do this in their own setting. So a Christian would worship Christ. Or if he's for some reason worshiping various saints or worshiping Mary, whatever he has learned to worship. Hindu will worship the deity which he has learned to worship. A Buddhist, the same. The same technique for all religions. The idea here is that by worshiping a cosmic being, by allowing myself to feel love, I am connecting now, not through my actions, but through my emotions with the whole. Because the cosmic being says, I am in all beings. And if you love me, you will love all beings around you. Otherwise, you're not loving me. When you're not loving your neighbor, you're not loving me. When you're not loving the prisoner, the person in jail, or the poor, or the orphan, you're not loving me. So worship, or the expression of love, or the expression of devotion towards a divine being, is another path towards universalization, but now on the emotional level. You see? So we're given a path on the physical level, and we're given a path on the emotional level, because all of these parts of our being need to be universalized. So love and devotion and worship is the second path. The third path is what we discussed in the previous seminar, through the control of thoughts, that is, through meditation. So the third path described by Swami Vivekananda is the path of meditation, or the path of being able to free ourselves from our personal thought patterns and experience that expansion of mind which we can experience once we are freed from thinking about all of those small things in our lives. All of those things which occupy our mind. So the third path is universalization through freedom from the mental thought process. So now we have a physical plane, a process for the physical plane, a process for the emotional plane, and a process also for the thought plane, for the mental plane. And the purpose of this is to transcend the thought processes. It is by meditating to come to a point of silence. And in that silence, to experience our oneness. And then the fourth path is the path which was described and used by Socrates. It's the path of philosophy. And it's the path we're going to be studying throughout these days in this seminar. And that is by awareness of the truth, I free myself from my small personal world. It is by studying the spiritual truths which were given to us by those who have gone ahead of us, we can obtain a state of inner peace and a freedom from the limitations of our personality. So we have the path of service, the path of worship, the path of controlling the mind, meditation, and the path of philosophy or spiritual truth. Now that we have discussed Socrates, let's look at the small diagram that I've given you here, which says Plato's cave. This is a description which Plato has given about man's state. What we have here is a cave in which there are men, beings, chained to the floor of the cave and to a certain wall on which they are, with their backs to a wall, they are chained to that wall also, so they can only see in front of them. Behind them there is a wall, and then behind the wall there is a fire. And between the fire and the wall, people are walking with objects. The light of the fire passing through those objects creates the image of shadows on the wall in front of the chained beings. So the only thing that they ever see in their lifetime are these shadows. And sitting there for all their lives, they make theories about these shadows, when they're going to appear, what they are. That is, this is their life, all of these shadows. And the whole sciences are developed about these shadows. The reality is that these shadows are nothing. They're just the absence of light. The absence of the truth, which is the fire behind them. It's something which is obstructing the truth, which is the fire. So one day, one of these people who is chained here gets free and walks up and realizes, sees the fire and sees the opening in the cave, and walks up and goes out of the cave and sees the light of the sun for the first time. Now in the beginning, of course, he's blinded and it hurts his eyes. Gradually, however, his eyes become very accustomed to this, and he sees the beauty of the sunlit world with its colors and with all of its objects. And he goes back down into the cave and he begins to tell everyone that, you know, what you're seeing is illusion. It has nothing to do with the truth. And of course they kill him, as they killed Christ, as they killed Socrates, and as society wants to kill anyone who disturbs their belief system. No, the shadows are the truth. the bodies of the truth. What are the shadows? The shadows are these bodies. It's all of physical reality, which is nothing more than a temporary appearance in the physical world of a reality much greater than we can imagine. But everyone that tries to tell us this, that we are divine, this is what Christ is trying to say, this is what Socrates is trying to say, that we are immortal, we are divine. This creates a great deal of insecurity in the powers at hand, that is, the governments, the religions, which are controlling things at that time. And they want to get rid of these people who are disturbing people's minds, making them think in this way, freeing them from their fears, because only through fear can we control people. So if people have no fear, we can't control them. So all politicians, all political systems, and all religions will lose their power over people if they stop fearing. If I realize that I have my own connection with God, and I don't need anyone to tell me that God loves me or not, or that I'm forgiven or not, then they will lose all of their power. So this is today we have discussed basically, it's the first introduction to this philosophy, and what we have said is that we cannot describe the truth totally in any way, that we are just trying in a way to perceive it through models, through ideas, that we are innately divine and immortal. Our true being is divine, is immortal, and the purpose of our lives is to reconnect it, to re-experience that, and we can do this through selfless service, through devotion and prayer and worship, through meditation, or the stopping of the mind, and through philosophy, through the awareness of truth. In the process of this seminar, we will be using the fourth technique, that we will be studying various truths. Now, if you have any questions about what you have heard today, want to say something or ask something, we can discuss any of those questions now.
What do you call this philosophy we are studying?
It's a combination of many sources, but I would say the main source is Vedantic. It's called Vedantic philosophy, from the Vedas, but also from the Bible, and from the Bhagavad Gita, and from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, from these four sources. Any other questions about what we discussed today?
According to what you said at the beginning, our purpose is to reconnect, but consciously this time.
Yes.
Not like...
Yes. Consciously. Through our free will.
Through our free will, that's why we lose our
Yes.
knowledge of pre-existence.
Yes. Now, we have the right not to connect, but as long as we are not connected to our true nature, we suffer. We experience fear, we experience pain, we experience anxiety, unhappiness. So, gradually, through suffering, not that we should ever seek suffering, but through suffering, we are forced, in our attempt to find solutions, to work towards discovering our true nature, because it's the only real solution, it's the only ultimate solution to stop suffering. It is to realize what I am, and to experience it, and to realize what other people are, and what it is around me. You see?
So there is a universal evolution, a personal evolution, and a universal evolution.
Yes. Yes. It's both personal, social, and the evolution, and universal. But it doesn't mean that there's always a movement in a positive direction.
Yeah, that's right.
There can be times in which we move backward as individuals and as society. Anything else? No?
I mean, what strikes me is when you say, why am I here? Why did the creator made such a goofy system where you get born, you're unconnected, and the whole point is to get reconnected. I mean, it seems kind of like a hamster on a wheel.
Yeah, I agree with you. First of all, I think that this answer as to why creation has taken place cannot be actually perceived, because I think the answer is beyond time and space. But I answer this question because I need to answer it in my mind in the following way, that there is a need in this creative consciousness, which we will call God, or the Creator, the Divine, for expression. But as omnipresent and as all-powerful as we perceive God, my perception is that actually it's not, this consciousness is not all-powerful in expression. It's all-powerful in potential. And that it couldn't happen in any other way. That is, it's a very slow process in which, first of all, there were just these gases, and then the gases imploded, and then there were planets and solar systems and galaxies, and then the first cells were created. And this consciousness was only able to express itself in this way, through cells, through plants, through animals, and now through human beings, so that we are that creative consciousness. It's not something separate from us, that we are the expressions of that consciousness in a process of evolving our ability to express ourselves in this way. Because if the divine had that ability, it would do it, wouldn't it? I mean, Christ came and left, so many beings came and left. They taught, but they didn't change anyone, in the sense that, I mean, Christ could have just waved his hand, supposedly, and make everyone aware of their true nature, right? I mean, God theoretically could do this. The fact that it's not done either makes us believe that God is a sadist, or that he cannot do it, one of the two. I mean, it's the only conclusions you can come to. Or that I mean, it's a silly game, and we see so much suffering on this planet. I mean, it's not a funny game. So, my perception is that this consciousness has the need to express itself materially. It's perfect in potential, it's perfect as a spiritual being, but its ability to express itself perfectly as a material being, in material reality, is in a process of evolution, and this is the only way it can do it, through this process, you see.
I just want to say that, I mean, we can only develop through trial and error. I mean, if God intervened and made us perfect, then there would be no development in our souls. We've just...
Yeah, but the question is, why couldn't he create us perfect? This is the question, you see, or she, or it. You see, the question, huh? Yeah, I think that you think the whole thing is, the whole question dissolves when you stop feeling separate from this divine energy, and you realize that we are that divine energy in the process of evolution. It's not something separate from us which has created us, that we are the divine in the process of evolving our ability to express our latently potential perfection on a physical level. So it's not like something else created us. We are that creative energy. And it's simply that it didn't have the ability to do anything else. It's a process of evolution.
Perhaps without expression, so we don't know that we are. I mean, God doesn't know that he is.
What? That he exists?
I know what I want to say, but I can't say it.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, God isn't without his expression.
No, this would not be accepted. God is without his expression,
Yes,
but that his expression is imperfect and in a process of evolution.
So did God exist before creation?
Theoretically, yes.
Where did he exist?
There's no time and space.
Yeah.
Since the divine is the creator of time and space, you can't ask where the creator of time and space was.
But it was no time and space.
There was no time and space. So existence.
Very complicated.
Yeah, but when you say omnipresent, look, when you say something is omnipresent, there's no time and space.
Yeah, I know, but
Because
I
something which is omnipresent fills all space, so it's nowhere. It's everywhere. Okay? And secondly, it requires no time to arrive any place. So there's no time or no space when you're speaking of omnipresence. I mean, time is created by the idea of distance, that I require a certain time to get from here to there. The moment that I am here and there, there's no time. You see? The idea of time is only created by the being limited to a certain space. So you can't ask where God exists.
No,
Because there's no where.
Existed before.
Yeah, you can't ask that because there was no where.
Yeah, no.
The where was created afterwards.
It's confusing.
So do you think as people are becoming more aware that God is actually better at giving a few clues?
I think that we are evolving. Yes, I think there are indications that we are evolving. Certainly, the majority of people on the earth are not focused on this, and there is still a lot of ignorance, a lot of hate, a lot of fear on the planet. But I think that we are evolving. There are more and more people, a greater and greater percentage of people getting tuned in. Huh?
Why do you think that is?
That's the process of evolution. Just as at some point there were no animals and there were only plants, and then we evolved into animals, and then at some point there were animals and plants but no humans, and then humans evolved. Now humans continue evolving, but not so much physically, although we are changing physically to a certain degree, but more emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. This evolutionary process continuing on the emotional, mental, and spiritual level. This is the hope, anyway, because if we don't become more mature, we're going to destroy ourselves. Anything else? Okay, let's make a meditation then. Huh? Okay, sit with your spine straight, your eyes closed. Begin focusing on your breathing. Breathing more slowly, more deeply. Those of you who have learned the alternate breathing can begin to alternate the nostrils through which you're breathing. Those of you that don't know it, you will learn it afterwards. Breathe slowly and deeply. With concentration on the breath. Inhaling into the solar plexus, holding the energy in the heart center. Exhaling with the energy flowing up through the neck. And then without breath in the forehead. Focus on your breathing in this way, moving the energy upward. Allow your breathing to continue by itself. Be sure that your spine is straight. Allow the muscles of your abdomen to be relaxed. Allow your solar plexus to relax. Feel your shoulders. Allow the shoulders to relax. And the arms and the hands. And feel the muscles of your face. Allow your jaw to be relaxed. Allow your cheeks to relax. Feel your eyes. Allow your eyes to relax. And feel your forehead. And allow your forehead to relax. Now, you can take a few minutes to focus on God, on the divine, in your own way, as you imagine the divine, and communicate spontaneously, sincerely, with the divine. become aware of the light in the center of your forehead. Allow that light to expand, filling all of the cranium, all of the skull, filling the brain, with this light energy. And allow the sense of light to flow into the face, relaxing the muscles of the face more deeply. And the light passes into the neck, into the shoulders, relaxing them. Passes into the arms, relaxing the arms. Feel the sensation of light in your heart center, as if there is a small flame, or as if the sun is shining in the center of your chest. And allow this light to expand, filling all of the chest area. And allow the light to flow into the solar plexus, relaxing that area. And into the abdomen, relaxing that area. And allow the light to flow into your legs, and feet, so that all the body is permeated by this vibration of light, from the soles of the feet to the top of the head. Feel the light expanding so that it is also all around the body, in and around the body. can focus on your chosen point of concentration, bringing your mind with love and patience over and over again to that point of concentration. Yourself in the light, the mind focused. begin to relax your concentration and your position. So we have a small practical detail, and is that I think we need to explain some things to those of you who are meditating for the first time with us, some of the details about the meditation. I will think the best thing to do is for me to make a copy of one of the cassettes in which I basically describe the process in which we were doing, and give it to you next time, so that you can listen to it in detail. But as far as the alternate breathing, I wonder, Wendy, if you could show them the alternate breathing technique. Okay. Either now, if we finish now, if you have time, or okay. So would you like to learn the way we change the breathing, the nostrils? Okay. Any other questions? The next time I'll give this. There's the three of you, right? That are from the emotional harmony. Everyone else is in here. Are there any questions about meditation or what we said earlier?
I've got different lights.
You're different?
Lights, different colours.
It's okay, fine. All colors acceptable.
Well, I thought you put the light on it when you first started because I suddenly got this very golden light, and then that went, and after that it was mostly sort of like a purple.
Purple, yeah. It's good, it's nice. Purple is fine.
What if you're on the brink of falling asleep? You're like in between that stage.
Well, the time of the day that we're meditating is not the best time of the day. It should be done early morning or towards sunset. But it's an indication that you're tired, so try to get more sleep at night before you come. You might try throwing a little water on your face before we start class. It might wake you up. Another thing you can do is breathe deeply and hold your breath a little bit. That may get the energy going. Or just shake your head or something. Okay? That's about all you can do. Anything else?
Maybe arranging stretching the neck as well. When you feel like it's really amazing that your neck is really long, but that helps a little bit.
Okay. Or ask someone to slap you in the face. You know, in the Zen tradition, they're very strict. If they see anyone going like this, they have a huge stick. You make any movement, bam! It wakes you up. So I can imagine it's quite a traumatic experience, actually. But it prevents you from going to sleep. Okay, so we'll try to be on time. I thought that this class, because it was in English, people would be more on time, but it's the worst class we have, actually. Okay? Okay. So, see you next week.